Hello. Hello. Okay.
Có number. Professor Kamau?
Yes,
Professor
yes,
Joseph Kamau, morning, how are you?
Good morning.
So we are ready to begin?
I guess so. I'm not seeing a lot of entry from Rerek.
Yes.
Engineer Kamoro, are we ready from Rerek?
We are quite a number have logged in, but we are still there. We are hoping others to join.
Okay.
So we could start.
Okay, then, ladies and gentlemen, allow us to start off the meeting because it's time. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you to today's meeting, stakeholders workshop. My name is Dr. John Kenyuru, and I'm the Director of Research and Innovations at JKUAT. We are really honored and have the pleasure to welcome Rerek, to welcome JKUAT and other stakeholders in this. And we are really privileged to host you today. This is part of our series of workshops and webinars that we host weekly. And so this continues as part of the series of meetings that we host our scientists to talk about the things they are doing with the industry and the community and answering to the relevant community questions. So without taking a lot of time, allow me to hand over the meeting to the Director, Institute for Energy, Professor Joseph Kamau, to take over and moderate the meeting. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Director. Welcome, members, stakeholders in the energy sector. We have actually invited energy professionals and practitioners from all over. We have invited the government, the Ministry of Energy. Rerek is, of course, the co-host, as I'm going to indicate shortly. We have invited members from IPRA, Kerea, Kengen, Ketraco, the county CCs for energy. We have also invited universities that deal with energy, the universities, both staff and students. We have also invited the private sector. In that connection, we have invited Solink, Deca Energy, Biogas Program, Jubairi, Chloride Exide, and we are hoping that all these people are going to be available for this meeting. Madam EVC is here with us, in charge of research and training at JKUAT. We also have the CEO of Rerek, CP Mbogwa, addressing us shortly.
Okay.
Before I invite them to give us their opening remarks, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to tell you something brief about IET. IET is a premier institute of research and training, and we deal with three key areas, namely energy technology, environmental technology, and occupational safety and health. We offer both MSc and PhDs in these areas and all the areas related to these thematic areas. In addition, we give certification like T1, T2, and T3 certificates for certification by EPLA. We offer short courses in solar PV and solar water heating, biogas and biogasification technologies, small hydro, all those under energy technology. We also train environmental and social impact assessment and energy audit, short courses in air quality monitoring and analysis, climate change and governance, and mitigation, among others, or under the environmental technology wing of IET. Also, the need to keep our workplaces safe. We also courses in occupational safety and health, and also workplace investigations. Now, this workshop, which is basically the state penetration and readiness levels of renewable energy, we are actually under instructions from REDEC through JQuartess, and we had mainly two objectives. That is to review the existing studies that are done on renewable energies in Kenya, and to establish the renewable energies technologies readiness level in Kenya. In looking at those broad objectives, we came up with specific objectives, several of them. And basically, without taking a lot of your time, ladies and gentlemen, we sought to come up with a mapping out of the state of the art in terms of the renewable energy technologies that have been deployed in Kenya, with a particular reference, the newest optimal technologies in the sector. We also sought to provide and guide the development and review of the renewable energy policies, their regulations, and the impact. We are actually saying that this draft report, which we shall give in detail during our results, will be a basis for REDEC to strategize on how best to improve the renewable energy landscape. At IET, we are of course cognizant of the 5-year strategic plan, the 2019, 2022, 2023 period, which has a very good vision for green energy driven energy, with actually a focus to electrify all the public facilities to households. So at IET, we are actually ready and willing to partner with REDEC to promote the use of renewable energy by promoting research and development. And also, we are also capable of strengthening the REDEC's institutional capacity. So from the study, we were able to make several recommendations that are actually in the report. But key to those are the need actually for the market and stakeholder analysis. We expect that REDEC should be able, in order to achieve their 5-year strategic plan, they should be able to map and assess the renewable energy technologies value chains that will include the manufacturers, the installers, and all those that are involved in monitoring and evaluation. We also hope that they can also do some form of gap analysis of all the renewable energy technologies that would also include standards and regulations. There are many recommendations that you are making in this study, all geared towards actually achieving those. And I know my colleague, Dr. Xavier, in his presentation, will be able to give those recommendations. So I just want to give a few housekeeping things that we require to do. I'm going to request that the speakers just open their video when speaking. They may choose to later close it. During the question and answer session, whoever is making a comment, kindly give your name and the institution that you are from. We are also going to ask that we be brief. We request that people to use the provided website to also ask their questions and give comments. So with those brief remarks, I think it's now my great pleasure to invite our DVC in charge of research, production, and extension, Professor Mary Abukusa Onyango, to give her key address. She is actually herself an ardent researcher. She's our actually lead researcher. So, Professor, kindly welcome and give your opening remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Kamau, Director IET. Ladies and gentlemen, members, participants from JKUAT and from Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation, REREC, all protocols observed. I'm happy to be here to give some thoughts on the subject as requested. But before I proceed, I ask the host to allow me to share some slides that are prepared that I would like to share as well. I just walk you through. Yeah. So once again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I am very happy to join this stakeholder workshop for in the area of energy, renewable energy. And also to thank Professor Kamau for inviting me to give this keynote. I also thank him for adjusting the time because I was to travel in the field. So he requested me if I can put it earlier so that I can give my keynote and then maybe excuse myself and go because I'm traveling to the field soon after this presentation. All said and done, but I'm very happy to be here and I want to welcome all of you to this presentation. I'll just give some highlights about how academia, that is universities and research institutions, can collaborate with the government and industry. So I'll not give you a theoretical kind of thing, but I'll give you what we do, share with what we do at JKUAT, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in that area. First and foremost, the university has a focus on being a university of global excellence in training, research, innovation, and entrepreneurship for development. Within the university, we have three, of course, the university is headed by a vice chancellor, and there are three deputy vice chancellors heading three divisions. So I'm one of them, but I head a division of research, production, and extension, as Professor Kamau has said. Basically, this division coordinates research, production, innovation issues, workshops, also coordinates soliciting for funds, income generating units, and coordinates activities of competence centers. Now, competence centers are such centers like the one that Professor Kamau heads, IET. The RP division, where RP stands for Research, Production, Extension, for those who are not from the university, is structured roughly as shown in this diagram. So it coordinates research, production, innovation, extension, and technology transfer and linkages. So if you look at the left, right, left, we have directorates. We have 5 directorates: research, production, extension, linkages, and university community collaboration. And then we have university farm as one of the one of the departments. And then we have thematic research centers, what we call thematic centers or competence centers of research. So the first one you can see is IET, which has organized this particular stakeholders workshop. Then we have IBR, Institute for Research, Biotechnology Research. Then we have SAGOREC, WAREC, and SMARTEC. Then on the far right, we have income generating units. So basically, the division has a lot of things to do with research, coordination, technology transfer, and so on. And that's why we are trying to see what we do and how now we can fit in to encourage or to promote linkages and collaborations with other institutions, especially industry and the government and other stakeholders. So I'll just walk you through each of these directorates, how they work, and then what they do in line of collaborations and linkages with industry. Now, although I want to say at this point that although RP as a division coordinates all these issues, but we have other offices that we work with that are either under the Division of Administration or the Division of Academic or the VC's office. So you'll find there's some other offices that we work closely with, but I'll give you an overview of what we normally do. So the Research Directorate is the first one. It's called Research and Innovation Directorate, headed by Dr. Kenyuru, who is chairing, who was here and was organized this particular webinar. Basically, many of the things that, the main things that this particular directorate does is to coordinate source of research funds, of course, working with other offices. Now we have a grants office and they work together to establish and maintain quality research, that's monitoring and evaluation, and they regularly review university research policy and develop researchers' capacity to attract funds, and also provide forum for researchers to share and publish and disseminate findings. And I would like to say at this point that actually JKU, we have a journal that is actually coordinated in the Research Directorate, where we publish some of the findings. I'm not able to move my slides. I don't know whether it's on my side or on the other side, but I'll try to move on until I'm able to move them.
If you click on the slide, then try to move it, see if it works.
Good. Thank you so much, Dr. Kenyuru, for that guidance. So this also continues to speak to what the research director does. That it does research, for example, initiation, proposals. Of course, as I said earlier, we work closely with the grants office, research administration. Research ethics also is another focus for research directorate, and here is where we ensure that researchers are actually doing the research in the required ethical manner. When we come to, we continue the research, they do research dissemination in terms of, we have a JKUAT annual scientific conference, and the journal, I've just talked about it, and research engagement, where we have quarterly meetings, and of course, public lectures, seminars, and research merit awards. So as today, that's why Dr. Kenyuru is actually coordinating today's seminar, because as part of his mandate in his directorate. Now, when it comes to research, we find that we have different thematic areas, and just this slide gives us a distribution of some of the research thematic areas. And I want you to pay attention, number 2, energy, climate, and environment IET is a key player in these thematic areas. Then when it comes to funding type, we have over 3/4 of the funding comes from international funding bodies, and next is by national government through National Research Fund, and very little which has actually stalled is from within the university. And then here I want to mention that the Grants and Consultancy Management Directorate as I mentioned earlier, which housed in the Vice Chancellor's office, works closely with the Directorate of Research to ensure that research funding is well coordinated. Then we have other special coordination, like we have a special project, African Eye Japan, project that is also funded by the Japanese government, that doesn't fall directly my directorate, but also does some work. And we have several other specified funds within the departments. Now, secondly, when you come to Production and Innovation Directorate, which is headed by Professor Owino, we find there are several things they do, but basically I want, in short, is to promote innovations within the university in terms of either looking for funds to promote those innovations, commercialize the innovations, and also to showcase these innovations and process them in a way that we will need to commercialize them at some point. And in a nutshell, so far, we have done over 12 is what I've shown here, innovations that we want to move to the next level for commercialization. And at this juncture, I would like to say that we have over 50 innovations already registered within the university, but they have not been commercialized. So this directorate tries to make efforts to commercialize these innovations. Yeah, this is the ones I said about 50, but this was 2018 data showing the different innovations we have. So it's very important for this innovation to be commercialized. So that's what the directorate, part of it, does, working closely with the DPUL. DPUL is another directorate that falls under the Vice Chancellor's office, and I'll talk about it in a moment. The other thing that the directorate does, promoting increased production of what we call income generating units, and they are listed there to ensure that also part of the innovations go into those income generating units, like CPC, Chemical Product Center is one of them. We have FOTEC, where we find innovations from the food science technology are actually commercialized there. Now, at this point, I want just to also mention that one other director that also handle innovations and IGUs include DPUL. DPUL stands for Directorate of Intellectual Property and University Industry Liaison Office. And this is a very important office as we talk about collaboration or liaison with the industry. And this is where this is headed by Engineer Kariuki, and is directly under the Vice Chancellor's office, but we work closely in my division to ensure that we optimize our collaboration and our relation with industry, so that when we have our innovations, we can be able to commercialize them. Of course, African Eye Japan I had mentioned, and then some of the IGUs also fall under the administration division. Now, the other directorate is extension technology transfer. When you develop innovations or when you develop technologies, it's very important that you transfer them to the wider public for use. So we have this particular directorate, which is headed by Mr. Mbugwa, and it coordinates all activities related to technology transfer and extension services. So this directorate actually does several activities, basically to ensure that the innovations and technologies developed by the university can be heard or can be known out there. And there are various ways they do it. They do it through JKUAT Annual Open Day, which has always been there in September, except last year, and of course this year, when because of the COVID issue, we have been participating in shows and exhibitions. And of course, until 2019, we have school visits twice a week. We used to, but now there are less, depending on the environment and guidance from the government, Ministry of Health. And JKUAT Annual Tech Expo, which is normally done in October, we just had one last week. And there are several things that they do to ensure that our technologies are known out there. Actually, the purpose of this exhibition is basically to provide an opportunity for the university to showcase and make the public know what we have and what they can use to solve some of the existing problems. And this is not just the public, but it's industry and also including government. So for example, I suggest for the sake of putting an example, we normally do public interest in some of the innovations. For example, in the past shows, this just shows some of the innovations that the public have shown interest. And here, that's where we tap into investors, in particular innovations. And afterwards, we follow up with these investors to follow, to see how they can now invest into some of these technologies. So one of the key technologies I would like to mention that comes close to energy, there's biogas, then there is also jet tractor and many others that investors have shown interest that we can be able to work with them. And this is just the number of people we reach. We have been reaching over the years for every show so that we are able to share with them what we have at the university. Last year, because of COVID-19, we were able to organize a virtual exhibition in November. And just remember also, I've remembered also, we had a JQuad conference also virtually early this year, and we're planning one next year. So because of the COVID, we're not giving up what we normally do in collaboration and working with the industry and the public. Because of COVID issues, we are using the exhibition, we are using the virtual platforms. So there's a Tech Expo, mentioned earlier, but Tech Expo is a very special way that is run by a committee comprising of mainly students, of course, guided by the director, extension and academic departments. And we have just had the 11, they call it Expo 11.0. JQuad Expo was on 18th and 19th of November, just 2 weeks ago. And out of these, industries come in and nurture some of these innovations. And even now, this helps the students to start startups and start businesses. So this is one of the avenues in which we collaborate with industry and government. And during this time, of course, we were able to be, if the lower picture, to be supported. And the guest of honor was the CEO of Kenya National Innovation Agency, which is a government institution. And that's also one of the ways we collaborate with government, among other avenues. Then we have Mkulima TV, Farmer Voice Radio is one of the Mkulima TV. Every Sunday at 3, you will see some of the innovations that are developed by JKUAT and Calro and others being aired on KBC. Then the past ways we've used radio, we've used newspapers, like we used to have a special program with the Kenya Standard Group between 2018 and 2020 on smart harvest and technology, where we were able to share some of the technologies. Then we've been having school visits. Of course, now they're a bit restricted, where schools come or other organizations to see what we have. I'm sure this is continuous, but we try to limit the number and try to follow the protocols as guided. And then we have for university community collaboration directorate, and this also works closely, is under under my division, RPE, but works closely with other divisions, the VC's office, Division of Administration, Corporate Communication Office, and basically this looks at the community, Juja community, and the environment of the university, because the university saw that the community where we placed, we must play a part, we must have an impact in those areas. So we had created that and headed by Dr. Kagima, and is working very hard to see how we can work amicably with the society. The last one is linkages and collaboration or partnership directorate. And this mainly helps to strengthen and expand collaborations. So this can be either research collaborations or with industry, or any other. We have different collaboration with government, with industry, with the other research institutions. So basically, it's just this directive helps to improve university linkages and partnership with the to show research and development with either research and development institution among others, and to increase our base of programs through collaboration, because collaboration is very important, because we cannot do it alone, as we've always been told that collaboration enriches. It's not a competition, it's for us to work with other institutions that we can enrich each other. So in a nutshell, we have actually collaborations with other universities, with the national institutions, with the private sector. I have not listed all of them here, I've just picked a few of them. As things stand now, we have over about 250 collaborations and over or MOUs that are active, and more than 3/4 of them are active. And we have also at this juncture, I want to mention that apart from the national government, we also have collaborations with about 15 county governments, where they are actually absorbing some of our innovations from JKUAT. So in conclusion, I want to say that there's need for effective research, innovation, technology transfer, and collaborations ecosystem with enhanced academia, industry, government collaborations. Of course, as I've shown, with the university through the research, production, extension division, and other directorates, we are trying to see if we can be able to strengthen this collaboration. But as things stand now, we are not there yet. There's still a weak link between especially academia and the industry. But the government has come in, like Kenya, is also trying to see if they can help strengthen that collaboration by coming up with an national innovation policy to help that. But it's an area that as a country, as stakeholders, and as a community, we need to strengthen, because it is in developed countries, you find a very strong link between academia, industry, and government. And that's why I laud this stakeholders workshop, that we have collaborators that have worked together with the IET, one of our institutes in JKUAT, to come up with some results. And I'm sure that this will help us to work together and make an impact and have what we call synergy, or supporting or strengthening each other. So with those remarks, I think I'm very happy with these stakeholders, and I'm sure that we'll learn a lot, and out of it, we'll strengthen our collaboration, not just with those who have worked on the project, but bring in other players to ensure that this area of renewable energy is strengthened for our country, and maybe and across Africa. And with those, I think I want to say thank you so much for listening to me. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that expose. I'm sure our DVC is very passionate about what she does, and that's why she was able to give us the whole cross-section of the division. So without further ado, I'm going to invite the Manager, Research and Innovation for LELEC, Engineer Evantas Kamwero, to give us the need for this baseline study, and thereafter invite the CEO of LELEC to give his address and also formally open the workshop for us. Engineer, kindly.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Professor. This is wonderful. I want to acknowledge the presence of our CEO, Peter Bugwa, DVC Professor, and all the stakeholders invited, ladies and gentlemen. Mine is just 3 key points: the need for this study, the aim of the study, and the expected outcome. Actually, why we came up with this after getting the mandate as per Energy Act 2019, we realized that failure studies have been undertaken on renewable energy right from inception of the ideologies to the exploration, piloting, implementation, and even evaluation of renewable energy projects. Nevertheless, there is lack of consolidated data on renewable energy technologies in Kenya, which make it difficult to make decisions. Like now we have been having some challenges, like even when it comes to Kenya Revenue Authority, how do they do their taxation, like on renewable energy systems and components? So we realize we don't have a really consolidated study concerning the renewable energy technology in Kenya, and there are quite a number of them. So there's also this made us also to look at the need for identifying market gaps of installed renewable energy technology in Kenya, which will address different county needs through various stakeholders, including investors. As you are aware, we have various counties in this country for 7, and each county has different needs. So we cannot just generalize that we say that what can be done in county A can also be done in county B. So renewable energy resources are totally different. So we wanted to know what is it each county has, what are the needs for each specific county, so that we can be able to scale up the renewable energy technology. So the aim of that study is that due to above stated needs, LELAC decided to carry out baseline study with aim of establishing renewable energy technologies readiness level in Kenya, and also to review the existing studies in renewable energy, so that we are able to consolidate them and be able to understand where are we. Yes, we want to promote renewable energy, we want to develop renewable energy in this country, but where are we as LELAC? Where are we as Kenya? Because we are given that mandate as an institution, we want to know about our country. What level are we? Can we be talking about a higher level or lower level? That was the critical point of starting for this study. So as a result of this study, we expect the outcome of this study to include the factors like to map and inform the government on current state of the deployed renewable energy technologies in Kenya. Then we also need to provide recommendation which will inform renewable energy policies, regulations, and associated impact thereafter. We don't want to be having policies which are theoretical. We want to know policies which are informed by concrete research, empirical evidence that are able to govern the way we operate, and that way we'll be able to succeed. With those few remarks, I want to take this opportunity now to invite our CEO to give his remark and officially open this workshop. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Engineer Kamwero. Thanks a lot, Professor Kamau. Distinguished guests, all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation, allow me to officially express my gratitudes and appreciations for this invite to address this congregation of stakeholders in the renewable energy during this opening of validation workshop for the baseline study on renewable energies in Kenya. Specifically, thanks for requesting me to talk about the importance of this research. We feel honored. At this point, allow me also to most sincerely thank the ICWAT community and indeed the ICWATs for these collaborations that will go a long way in development of renewable energies in this country. We are looking forward to a clean environment. Ladies and gentlemen, REREC is one of the state corporations that the Ministry of Energy, formerly known as Rural Electrification Authority. And following the enactment of the Energy Act 2019, Rural Electrification Authority was changed to Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation. And this came with expanded mandates of promoting Kenya's renewable energy, in addition to continuing with implementing rural electrification projects. We have recently developed and launched our new strategic plan, And this launch was carried out last Friday, and we are privileged to have our PS with us who did the launch, retired Major General Dr. Gordon Kiharangwa. And this came with a vision of ensuring a green energy-driven nation and a mission to provide sustainable energy solutions for all through rural electrification and renewable energy for socio-economic transformation. We always pride in the fact that we do serve the lowest in terms of economic ability in this country. One of our key strategic objectives as per the strategic plan is to promote research and development in renewable energies. And basically then this workshop comes in handy in promotion and support of the same. Ladies and gentlemen, research is one of the main activities conducted by REREC as per mandate under the Energy Act 2019. Under section 44(1)(k) and I of the Act, REREC was mandated to formulate, in conjunction with NUPEA, a national strategy for coordinating research in renewable energies. In addition, REREC, in conjunction with NUPEA, is expected to conduct research, development, and dissemination of appropriate renewable energies and energy technologies. Under section 44(1)(I) of the Act, REREC is required to undertake feasibility studies and maintain data with a view to availing the same to developers of renewable energy resources. Generally speaking, research is one of the most effective ways to understand your customers, your market, and of course your competition. It also helps companies to understand the demand and supply of the market. This information from the researchers is critical in decision-making and ensuring business successes and growth. You all agree also with me that research plays an important role in discovering new ways of doing things while ensuring optimal use of existing technologies. Research also gives answers to unknown, fills in the gaps in knowledge and change ways of doing things. So it goes without saying that well-conducted researches are vital for success of any organization or a nation. Researches draw their power from the fact that they are empirical rather than theoretical. And this promotes informed decisions, including development of policies. And this was alluded by Engineer Kamwero. Research in renewable energy is expected to promote use of renewable energy through this resource assessment, study of latest and effective research technologies, and the study of adoption of renewable energy technologies in this country. The researches and feasibility studies are expected to attract various investors in renewable energy, thus enabling Kenya to achieve its Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which include but are not limited to SDG number 7 on affordable and clean energy, SDG number 13 on climate action, SDG number 3 on good health and well-being, and of course, when all this is done, SDG number 1 that will ensure no poverty in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, the promotion of research in the field of renewable energies is an integral part of energy research policy. The significance of energy research for sustainable development is derived from the basic fact that an increase in knowledge enhances the ability to shape advancement, and the resulting progress in technology creates the basis for maintaining and expanding the scope of future generations for development. It is a well-known fact that research and development are the only systematic way to achieve progress and innovation in energy supplies, which are both economically feasible and adapted to the needs of the generations to come. REREC had been collaborating with various partners while conducting its research activities. And for purposes of this study, REREC collaborated with Institute of Energy and Environmental Technology, IEET, of JKUAT, through its commercial arm of JKUATS. In future, we will be keen to continue these joint collaborations to ensure that we develop this country. It is also important that while we undertake these researches, we pay particular attention to preservation of our economic environment for our future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, the baseline study, which you as stakeholders are about to validate, will provide the current status of use of renewable energy resources in this country, which will inform investors, researchers, policymakers, and indeed all stakeholders in renewable energy resources and technologies. Before I conclude, allow me to most sincerely thank everybody who has attended this workshop. Thanks for getting time out of your very busy schedule. And I believe we will be able to come up with some way forward that will help this country to move forward on renewable energies. And at this point, it is now my humble duty to declare this validation workshop officially open. Thank you very much, and may God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, CPM Mbogwa, the CEO of REREC. Your words are very well taken. We have actually heard that your mandate is very, very much in line with the mandate of IEET, and we can actually join you in looking at your mandate, especially in the research and development area, talking about affordable and sustainable energy, issues to do with climate mitigation, and so on. So thank you so much for your words, and we hope and we are looking forward to further collaboration. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Francis Xavier Ochieng to present the results of the study that the IEET team carried after being instructed by REREC. So Dr. Xavier, kindly take us through the findings of the study.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Francis Xavier Ochieng, and I was part of the team together with Professor Kamau and IET and JKUAT, which was mandated by REREC to undertake this study. And I acknowledge the CEO of REREC, I acknowledge the DVC, I acknowledge the various distinguished guests, and thank you very much for taking time to be in this particular meeting. So without much ado, I would like to go straight ahead to begin the presentation. I'll try to take as little time as possible because we were supposed to close at 11:30. So ideally, I think you can now see the screen. Ideally, the study is a baseline study, and it was supposed to look at renewable energy, and particularly it was looking at the state, the penetration and the readiness level of these technologies. So the main research aim were two. There was the need to review existing studies on renewable energy, which had sub-specific objectives of identifying the resources installed, identifying the penetration level, and establishing the existing gaps in the studies. And then the second thing was to establish the readiness level, which was both commercial and also technical, and also to find out if there's any existing gap in terms of the technology being employed, in terms of are there new technologies. The need for this study has already been mentioned by Engineer Kamweru, but they're there, as in the need to appraise current technology, look at penetration market gaps, find out what kind of technology you can prioritize in the value chain, and more importantly, to identify market needs in terms of like, what do we need as a market? Are there problems that are being caused by barriers, maybe taxation and things like this? So the outcome was basically the mapping of the state of art of renewables and also the recommendations. Those were the two outcomes. So the methods and tools we used for the literature review, because we had to do a literature review, we used meta-analysis. And then for the field data collection, we used COBO. Sentiment analysis was done under the field study to identify gaps. And then technology readiness level and commercial readiness level were also utilized to kind of characterize the rates. And then on the right here, which you can see, we had the study approach, which is basically the literature review, the field study, and then the synthesis or analysis. So that's why we are calling this a synthesis report, because we had to kind of condense it a little bit. And then those are the research aims and the research objectives, which I've already mentioned. Okay, so what were the results? Now, the first result that came out was in terms of what we are calling contraring of the energy mix. This is the energy mix on the right, on the left, of as per 2020. And if you look at it, you see certain gaps in that energy mix. What are these gaps? For instance, you look and you say there's imports, there's thermal, there's solar, there's wind, there's geothermal, and then there's hydro. Now, looking at it, this kind of gap, this kind of energy mix kind of tends to bias someone towards centralized grids. That's the kind of challenge with this kind of energy mix. It kind of pushes you towards a centralized energy electrical grid, because it doesn't tell you if they are small, what the kind of solar you have, whether it is small or big. It doesn't tell you whether the wind is the large wind turbine, the megawatt type, or the small wind turbine. The hydro, it doesn't tell you if it is a small hydro or a big hydro. And so you find that it kind of generalizes and summarizes that kind of data. And so what we did, the first thing when we got our results from the field, was to kind of disaggregate this energy mix. And the second thing that this energy mix misses is the thermal component of the renewable energy. So we kind of came out with these two kind of energy mix, where now we actually disaggregate the energy, the various energy technologies, depending on their sizes. So you find that there's big hydro, there's small hydro, there's there's large wind, there's small wind, there's solar PV for home, solar PV for commercial and industrial, solar PV grid connected, and then geothermal, and then thermal. And also we looked at the potential of any other energy possibility that can be utilized in Kenya. And we also realized that Kenya has a potential in terms of tidal waves. Currently it is at 0%, but the mere fact that it can appear on the energy mix, it provides us with a feeling that that is an area we can work on. So this kind of energy mix for the electricity generation was what we thought could be very key in kind of changing our thinking, not just to think about centralized grids, but also think in terms of like providing energy services, kind of factoring energy services at the center, not just a question about the grid. The second aspect about the energy mix was also kind of capturing the thermal generation. And you can see here that now we were able to capture the thermal generation, energy used for cooking, energy used to provide process heat, and we were able to see you're able now to see bioethanol. It's about 5.11 megawatts at a 3%, cogeneration, municipal waste, solar thermal, fuel wood, that is basically the fuel you cut, the biogas, yeah, and also the charcoal. So our thinking, our suggestion was that based on what we are getting from the field, is that there is a need moving forward to kind of have an energy mix that is disaggregated, that kind of captures all the renewables in their various categories, as in small or big, and secondly, whether it is for electrical or it is for thermal, and not just lump everything in one energy mix. So having this kind of energy mix, the electricity one and the thermal generation one, would would be of great use for us. So based on that, you can find now on the right side, on the left side, the minimum system installed in Kenya. I'm using the word minimum, and it's a key word, because what's going to happen is that we were not able to go to every single house, every single industry, every single location in Kenya to determine what kind of energy system they were using. But we were able to capture quite a number, both from our sampling and also from secondary literature. We were able to capture quite a number. So the minimum system installed, minimum, meaning it's going to be higher than this if a census was to be done, is about 3.1 gigawatts in terms of electrical generation. So that is a bit higher than the energy mix of June 2020, which was 2.7 gigawatts. Then in terms of thermal generation, the minimum system total is about 192.53 megawatt thermal. And like we mentioned before, thermal is not normally included directly in the energy mix. The second thing was I would like now to go directly into the various renewable energy systems, the technologies very briefly. And so we looked at the biodiesels. Generally, biodiesels is a bit of a confusion when you are going out to the market, because when you go out and ask for biodiesel, some people will tell you biodiesel, they are referring actually to blended fuel, the one where you take biodiesel and you add diesel and you have a ratio, maybe B5 or B20, and they call that biodiesel. And then others will have the processed oil. You do a trans-esterification, and then you get biodiesel. But what we found out was that currently in Kenya, we used to produce 40,000 liters of neat biodiesel, as in B100, and that was being done mainly from Sajani company. But then when the COVID hit, that production stopped. And as per my last discussion with them about 2 weeks ago, they were still thinking or planning how to restart production. But the mere fact that they have not been able to start production is an indication that things didn't go so well, maybe with equipment or something. And currently, there is no commercial production of biodiesel. What you're going to get in most of these off-the-cuff kind of companies and stuff is basically processed oil, which they have not done any trans-esterification. So currently there is no biodiesel production, nor is there any blended fuel being done on a commercial basis. But you might find pockets of maybe people doing it, but doing it small scale and doing it maybe in an informal way. That is what our key thing we found out. Then when it came to bioethanol, it should be understood that previously Practical Action, and together with the UNDP and Ministry of Energy, under the so-called PICES program, had started the process of kind of making ethanol for cooking. So what had happened was that out of the total 96.72% of 53.2 million liters that was being produced for as high-grade ethanol for brewery and medical, Then there was another 1.8 liters that was being called technical grade ethanol that was being produced as cooking fuel. So they were able to achieve quite a lot of mileage, particularly in terms of taxation, so that ethanol could be used for cooking. So that lineage they produced was enabled us to have like ethanol for cooking, and that is why currently we find like companies like Cocoa International. They are now having what you call ATM dispensing machines, and they are able to actually sell ethanol for cooking, and you can buy it using using your mobile phone. And they have a small carrying container where you actually carry the ethanol, and you go to and buy the ethanol. So the biggest challenge from the ethanol part was that out of the various cooking fuels in Kenya, you find that denatured technical bioethanol, what you are calling here technical grade ethanol, has a tax of about 25% and an effective VAT of 16%, which means that essentially it has about 41% additional cost. While other fuels like biogas, firewood, charcoal, solar thermal are basically not so highly charged. LPG is only at 60%, 16%. Paraffin and electricity, they are also, if you look at them, they are much less than 20% total. So that means that already there's a taxation barrier in terms of using bioethanol for cooking. Just that taxation area, meaning it cannot compete quite strongly with other cooking fuels. Yet it is something that if it was to be encouraged, it would make a big change. Currently, in terms of also usage, number of households using different kind of fuels, you find that with bioethanol, only about 195,000 households are using it, while things like LPG, it's about 2.8 million households, firewood is 6.6, charcoal 1.3, and so on. What is very key in this particular outlay is the realization that firewood takes a huge percentage, which means it is unsustainable firewood, meaning that probably as moving ahead, one could start thinking about green charcoal or green firewood, something that is sustainable. And then also the second thing about this table is that you have to realize there's the aspect of fuel stacking. Someone will be using more than one fuel in the house. There might be LPG and then maybe biogas, or LPG and charcoal, something like that. And then solar thermal is very low in terms of utilization. Actually, ethanol is much higher than solar thermal. And so that kind of gives us a feeling of how the market in terms of penetration is. In the main report, you'll actually look and see the penetration levels in each of the counties, who is using what at what county. Then moving on, we talk about charcoal and fuel wood. Important here is that the daily consumption of charcoal is about 1.5 million for charcoal, and for fuel it is about 14.22 million. That is a huge amount of charcoal in kilograms, and then in megatons it's given there per year. And then if you look at the county distribution of charcoal and firewood, it was interesting to note like a county like Nakuru is using more charcoal than even Nairobi. The same case happens with Mombasa, more charcoal than Nairobi. Yet if you look at Nairobi, Nairobi also the amount is very, very, very small compared with those two counties. And then if you look in terms of firewood, you find something like Kakamega is taking quite a huge amount. And this is probably because Kakamega still has quite a lot of their indigenous forests. which might mean that this is a policy direction that should be considered. And then you come here and you look at what we are calling the Charcoal Producers Association. And you can find these are the key areas where they are located. And they're supposed to be producing sustainable charcoal. But without government support, you find there's a lot of cross-border filtration, charcoal moving across the borders, and also illegal burning of charcoal. So the idea here that is coming up very strongly is that there is a huge appetite for charcoal and fuel wood, but then the way we approach the matter is very key. I don't want to talk so much about the banning, the charcoal ban that was instituted, because if you ban the charcoal, you say no more charcoal is going out. The question that should then come in is, what is the alternative are you giving the people? What alternative are you giving the people? Because if you don't give them an alternative that they can afford, an alternative that actually meets their energy service, then they will still continue buying the charcoal, maybe at a higher price because it will now go black market. And that is some of the issues that come in. And so REREC and the government and all kind of players should now start thinking afresh about this. One way of thinking about that is by the use of biogas. And here you find that when we looked at the biogas systems, you have two graphs here. One is the biogas system that was ascertained by county-wise and which we validated by our own field data. The biogas system that came from the Kenya National Statistics when they did the census in 2019. And then the blue one comes from the Kenya Biogas Program, which we also validated. And you can see generally there is a trend where it's almost following each other between the two, although there's some what you call anomalies at certain points. But you can see the way even here, look at Kericho, Kiambu, and Kilifi. You see they are almost like picking together. Here in Nairobi it's actually suppressed, but in the census data it's actually enhanced. Now, one of the reasons that there is this anomaly is based on the fact that when they were doing the census, they were just asking, do you have a biogas system or not? And the aspect of assessing whether the biogas system is working, whether it is actually giving sufficient gas was not actually assessed. And that is now captured by the Kenya Biogas Program, the blue line, where they were able to capture this data and they're actually monitoring it. And it is interesting, and that is something that maybe we can think about as an industry, that Kenya Biogas Program actually is running the biogas program, as in being able to do installations and to monitor it over time. They're doing that by having a climate finance. They're actually getting climate finance, under the voluntary program, the gold standard. They're actually getting climate finance to do some of this work. And this is something that can be deployed in all the other renewables, solar, wind, hydro, ethanol. It's just a question of how we orient ourselves to that. So based on that and based on our field studies, we were able to come to a figure that a total of 659 working biogas systems are installed in Kenya. We took a median because the 22,603 biogas system currently installed by Kenya Biogas Program is not comprehensive. Does not capture all the systems installed in Kenya, while the one for 56,715 is a bit overstated and does not capture whether the system is working or not. So in terms of electrical conversion, that came to about 79 megawatt hours of the systems. So just coming again to the gaps. So realizing the gaps there in the biogas system, at IET, we are now working towards kind of doing two things, kind of developing a cleaning system, very affordable, so that anyone wants to clean their biogas system from hydrogen sulfide can easily take some of the local materials. So we are investigating using steel wool or steel wire or steel shavings, and together with loam soil, the red soil, to kind of see if you can be able to remove hydrogen sulfide, because the problem with hydrogen sulfide is that once it starts getting into the system, then the system doesn't last long, particularly the cook stove and stuff. So that is one area we're investigating. And then the other area we are investigating is what we call containerization, where we can squeeze the biogas into a container and sell it the way you sell LPG. There's a challenge there in terms of costing of the material we are going to use, because if you use milled steel, then it means that if you want same energy density that you get in a 13 kilogram LPG, it will mean you'll have to use like an almost 100 kilogram container for the biogas, which is very difficult and very hard to move around. We're also looking at what we are calling biogas microgrids, where we want to see if we can be bringing gas to maybe a small village, like maybe one of the slum areas or a gated community, and then we pass the gas through pipes to those houses. When the gas in the container finishes, we bring another container to replace that. So it's sort of like a biogas microgrid system. Now, moving on to solar and solar thermal, it was very interesting because we decided to actually differentiate the market, and that was very key, because if you differentiate the market, you can now know actually what is happening instead of lumping it all together. So one of the things that happened is that we realized that if you're looking at the total minimal installed capacity is around 214 megawatt peak. Minimal, again, that's the word. So for the commercial and industrial sector, we are looking at around 40 megawatt peak. For the grid connected, it's about 51 megawatt peak. And then for the residential and home and street lighting, we are looking at around 123 peak. This also includes solar lanterns and things like this. Yes. So with that kind of differentiation, one can now see, if you're an investor, you can now see where can I do the installations, right? And then if you look at here, particularly with the commercial and industrial sector, it's actually one of the fastest growing expanding areas in the solar sector, because more and more companies are doing this commercial and industrial. And you can see that if you look at it carefully, more systems are being installed in petrol stations, in offices and commercial complexes, in flower farms, in industrial and processing units and factories. So you can see that these four areas are actually taking quite a huge portion of the installations. However, those are the number of installations. But if you compare the number of installations to the installed capacity, you get a different picture. For example, if you look at tourist hot lodges and hotels, they only had 18 systems installed, but then the installed capacity is 3 megawatt, while for the petrol station, which had about 30, the installed capacity is pretty small. So that creates an interesting aspect where you have to think in terms of like not only the numbers, but also in terms of the installed capacity. Yeah, and for all our stories, we found out that the industrial and processing units and factories have a much higher installed capacity, which can actually differentiate you to kind of know where you can invest in. Then if you look at it county-wise, for the solar thermal, which had a total of 77,000 solar water heater systems, if you look at that, you'll find that Garissa had a much higher solar water heater installations, followed by Kakamega, and then you have in Narok, and then you have in Wajir. And that brings you to a question about the currently suspended solar water heater regulations, because the idea was to kind of reduce electricity usage, particularly in urban areas. But you find places like Nairobi City, the installations were very small. Yet places there where we would expect not to have much installations, the installations were much higher. So these are some of the questions that the research is raising, and it's kind of bringing us to a point where we have to ask ourselves seriously, what was wrong, or how did we go wrong, or how did we go right in having the solar regulations, or what can we do to also improve uptake in urban areas again. Then if you look in terms of solar PV, we have divided it. There are those torch and spotlight, solar charge system, and then the normal solar PV. Then you find that Bomet has quite a huge use in terms of torches and spotlights, but very small in terms of solar PV. But then Kakamega is emerging to be quite an interesting place because you find the solar PV is quite high. If we look at Nairobi, you find that comparatively to the other counties, the installations in Nairobi are not all that big. This could be in part, I say that with a lot of caution, this could be in part because not every single house was visited, but then because this part of this data came from the census data, it could also be that for the first time, having looked at such data, we are now realizing that actually people outside Nairobi are actually going for more of the solar PV and the torches and spotlights than people within Nairobi, yeah, which could mean that even the market has now kind of developed. Look at places like Siaya, very huge solar PV installations. Places like Kakamega have said that. Places like Kitui, places like Kajiado, and then Isiolo, not very much. Then Homa Bay, quite a huge percentage. And these are basically what you're calling market areas, areas where you can go in and cash in, or you can decide to go to areas where there's not so much and you can cash in there. Right. Moving on, there's one thing that we did also. We went to wind, and in terms of wind, we had a total installation of about 400 and something, 440 there, 430 installed capacity, and that one was for the Leku Turkana, which is operational, the Ngong Wind Park, which is operational, then the Kipeto, which is operational. And then off-grid small wind systems nationwide is about 0.6 megawatt. Now, there's one thing that we realize here that has not been really considered in terms of wind. Small wind turbines, most people are buying what we call the horizontal axis, the one that looks like the big wind turbines that we see, but only smaller in size. Now, if we are going to kind of encourage wind turbines, particularly in urban areas where we have a lot of these microclimates, and because of microclimate, there's a lot of heat, yeah, within the city due to the glass buildings and stuff. So there's a lot of vertical wind going up, And if you are to look at vertical axis wind turbine being installed in urban areas, you'd find there would be a lot of power being generated. Horizontal axis wind turbine cannot work so well in urban areas because there will be a lot of turbulence created by the buildings, but then the vertical axis can create quite an interesting situation. So that was one challenge that we thought, that one recommendation that we thought could be considered. The second recommendation has got to do with the wind resource map. The wind resource map we have in Kenya, the most accurate, if I may use that word, is the one developed by Vortex. And you see, the reason is it has a horizontal resolution of about 3 kilometers, and the height is at around 100 meters. But we can do better. This is a foreign company, but we, as a country, can actually develop this kind of wind resource map and show it up to a horizontal resolution of 100 meters to between 30 meters to 100 meters, depending on the input data of the map we use. And if we are used to do that, it would mean now that anyone who wants to know the wind speed in any particular location we'll be able to know it within 100 meters. So that if, for example, where you are seated right now, you can just use your phone and it will tell you the wind speed at where you are seated within 100 meters radius or 30 meters radius is this much. This would improve investments in wind technology. Currently, people have to do measurements because of this kind of coarse wind maps. And then that one is something that we have already started at the university, but it's something that we very much want to work with clients and with partners in developing quite a much more better wind map. Yeah, important here again is that if you look at the wind map on the left, you can see the whole area of Turkana, Marsabit there. It's very red, meaning the wind speeds are in excess of 7.93, very high wind speeds at 100 meters. And again, the same map on the right here. If you look at the blue covers quite a number of places, and that is 3 to 4 meters per second. Again, that brings you to the vertical axis wind turbine, which can take very low wind speeds and produce much more power. And then if you look at the red, the green, 5 to 6, and then you see both the green and the blue take quite a huge chunk of the country. Then the 6 to 7 meters per second are all on the northwestern part of Kenya, majorly. And of course, where you have the river, the ocean, and the Lake Victoria, and even where you have the Lake Turkana, there's bound to be that land sea breeze, which can also be quite instrumental. So there is a lot of wind resources, but the problem is we have not gotten the right resource map. We have not gotten the right technology depending on the kind of wind speed, and we have not investigated the possibility of the land sea breezes. Yeah. Then the other technology we looked at was tidal and wave energy. It has been demonstrated. There was a company some time back which wanted to actually set up a tidal energy system in the Indian Ocean, close to the Kenyan border, but I don't know what happened. It never materialized. The tidal systems is basically like a wind turbine. For example, if you're using wave energy, it's like if you're using tidal energy, it's like a wind system, but now submerged, and it can produce much more power per unit area when compared to a wind turbine. And you see, this is something that can actually be made even smaller, and you can actually put it along rivers, provided you make sure it doesn't get hit by stones or something. You can put it along rivers, along the lakes, and it can generate power. Imagine taking something like this, maybe measuring 1 meter by 2 meters or something like this, putting it in a river, and you can power almost like 10, 20 houses. So it's something that was that we need to think about. So looking at it, we have the possibility of actually getting along the Kenyan coast about 1.9 gigawatts. But this one has to be ascertained. We have to do a resource assessment there. But this is just one can say a quick off the thumb situation. So right now we have an installed capacity of about 3 gigawatts. Remember, 3.12 I showed you in the new energy mix for electricity. But already the tidal waves can also almost give you 2 gigawatts. And this one can be used to power the Lamu port, power the areas around the coast. It can be exported, and it's not all that expensive as it's installing a whole wind pack, which has got variable winds. Although this one is also variable, but it's not so variable like the wind packs. All right. Then small hydro. Now, small hydro is quite an interesting story. So the current minimal installed capacity is about 47.8 megawatts, but the potential is established at 300 megawatts. If we were to utilize all the small hydro systems along rivers, and most of them are run of the river, meaning you're not putting a dam we could get more, almost 300 megawatts. And this is bare, this is a power that is kind of fixed. It's not like it's going to vary. So long as there's water, you're going to get this kind of power. And here is a listing of some of the systems that we investigated. The full list is in the report. Yeah. So the main issue at small hydro is that while much has been done in terms of dealing with pico hydro systems and mini hydro systems and small hydro systems, the results has not translated into a commercialization. That means that not so many people are actually putting it. Now we come to cogeneration. Cogeneration has been a thorn in the flesh for some particular sector, and that is mainly the sugar sector. Initially, we were very excited some years back when Mumia started to do cogeneration. But then somewhere along the line, they stopped, and quite a number of the sugar companies are facing a challenge, not because of the cogeneration, but because I don't know, whatever the reasons, but there are not many are actually doing cogeneration anymore. However, that notwithstanding, you find there are other companies and other organizations that are actually moving into cogeneration. James Finlay is one of them, Biogas Holding East Africa, Olivado, they're using avocado to generate electricity, and also then there was also the slaughterhouses. Yeah, there's one in Kajiado near Kiserian. They were supposed to use abattoir waste, as in the slaughterhouse, you slaughter the cows, and then the waste was supposed to be used to kind of generate electricity. But you can find that what we found out, that there's some that have been set up, they're already suspended or abandoned. And that is a bit worrying. Why did this happen? What can happen to revive them? Because if we can look at ways in which we can be able to generate this waste, because this is basically biogas, so to speak, then you run it through a generator, then they would have quite an interesting situation. There's this George Farm, which is vegetable processing waste. They're using vegetable waste to generate electricity, about 1.3 megawatt, and then 1 megawatt thermal. So for generation, we are talking about 3.02 megawatt electric and 5.17 megawatt thermal. Right. Lastly, we came to municipal waste. While it has become quite an interesting thing to do the municipal waste, I remember I met a consultant some time back. They were doing the feasibility study for Dandora Waste, Dandora dump site, the feasibility study. I think they finished it, but it didn't come out much. And then KenGen came and they said they're going to work with the Nairobi County to kind of establish a waste to energy, basically waste to energy in Dandora. So far, what we have, there's one at Kibra, 12 megawatts, and then there's one at Tropical Power, 2.3, that is George Farm, and then so the total installed capacity is about 14.3. So the biggest challenge with the waste is that actually there are three challenges. There's a problem of separation of waste. There's a problem of that not all waste gets to the main dump site. There are also many small dump sites in different counties. If you look at the report, you're going to see that. And the idea now is how do you develop this waste to energy system? Do you make it just one big one for the centralized dump site, or do you make a small one at different dump sites across different counties? So that was something that we thought would be interesting to think about. And then you find that there are different ways of dealing with this waste. This is already known, industry standard. So you can either do anaerobic digestion, or reduce sanitary wind landfill, or bioreactor landfill, or incineration. So for most part, I think The anaerobic digestion would be interesting, because if you start doing that, you'd end up with biogas, which you can now actually, that's why we are doing the problem with the issue of the containerization, because if you can containerize biogas or make it move into a microgrid, so instead of electricity moving in the microgrid, you have the biogas moving into it, then you can actually have it as commercial fuel from landfill, from this dump site. So, and then also at the same time, you can use the biogas to do the electricity generation. And that is where now it becomes interesting, because you have to look in terms of the cleaning of the gas. It's very key. And then they digest it. What comes out can actually now be kind of changed into fertilizers. And then that one you can now even sell it to the estates, or sell it to individuals, so that people can even do urban gardening in terms of vertical gardening. So people can grow their own food or sell it to, and then you can turn the whole country into kind of an organic farm. You use less of the chemical fertilizer. Just thinking, right? So coming to the last parts of this presentation is the question of readiness level. So there are two kinds of readiness level. There's the technical readiness level and the commercial readiness level. And if you look at the left down here, the technical readiness level has 9 steps. So you have basic technology research to prove feasibility, that ranges between 1 and 3, 4 there, and then technology development, the demonstration, system, subsystem development, and then system test, launch, and operation. Once you have finished that, you now take it to the commercial side, and you start with the commercial trial, small scale, commercial scale up, multiple commercial application, marketing, driving widespread development, and then bankable asset class. So we had a look at all these technologies, and then we could see, for example, big hydro is well known. It has already reached the level where it has already been tested. It's known. You buy the things off the shelves and you install. So it's known. However, its commercial readiness level is at 6, meaning it has reached a point where it is a bankable asset class. Small hydro, more or less the same, although there might be need for tweaking of the subsystem components in terms of for example, not many people have thought about cross-flow turbines. There's been a lot of emphasis on a Pelton turbine. Yeah, I'm talking of small hydro here, Pelton turbine, but you see cross-flow turbine can actually work very well also where there's a smaller head. That's why it is an 8. But in terms of commercial readiness, it is a 2, meaning it's still commercial trial, it's still small scale. That's why you see it is almost, it hasn't even reached 100 megawatts yet. Yeah. Tidal waves is at 2 because it's basic technology research. It's known, but in Kenya, not much has been done. And we are thinking that this could be one of the research areas at the Institute. And we'd like to work with partners on this. At the same time, in terms of commercial readiness level, it's at 1. It has not really done nothing. It's just hypothetical commercial proposition so far in Kenya. But outside there, it has been achieved and it is working. Large wind, it's already at commercial level and it's bankable. Small wind, there might be some need of subsystem adaptation. And it's at commercial trial or small scale, it's ready. And I'm talking particularly here in terms of small wind, in terms of the vertical axis. Small solar PV, it's at commercial level, the same with solar PV for C&I, grid connected is there. Solar thermal, almost similar like small hydro, but now with the difference being in terms of the commercial readiness level, that it is a bankable asset. It's already there. We know it can work. Biodiesel, the thing is at 7, meaning the technology has been demonstrated it can work. So we just need to now tweak on the subsystem and system development, particularly in terms of quality of the biodiesel. And then in terms of application, it's now at a commercial scale up. I talked about the journey. And then biogas, in terms of captive power, is also at 8. And then at 3, commercial scale up. Meaning these are things that can now take off quite strongly. Charcoal, in terms of captive power, we are looking at it at 9 and 6. It only now needs that rethinking in terms of green charcoal. How can we work out in terms of green charcoal? Then fuel wood, similar in terms of green fuel wood. Bioethanol, the challenge, we need to prove something to KRA in terms of removing the taxes. How can we ensure that this bioethanol, once it comes out of the factory, it is not going to be diverted to other uses, but it's going to be used purely for cooking. So that is some of the challenges that it's in. And it's because of that kind of situation that the commercial trial has still become in small scale. But you find that people like cocoa are already doing something, but they need support in order to increase their market share. Cogeneration, I think that's pretty clear. It's a technology that has already been demonstrated. It's working, but it has not reached that what you would call bankable asset. It's still in the market competition. It's still driving. There's still need for driving widespread development. And then lastly, municipal waste. The technology is known. It's there. However, it's still at a low commercial scale up. It doesn't really reach that bankable asset clause. So some of the recommendations, I'm just gonna gloss over this. One of the things I mentioned was the need to kind of think in terms of climate change and in terms of climate finance, that we can use certain standards like the gold standard to actually drive financing to installation of renewables. And I think Kenya Biogas have done quite a wonderful job at that. And it's something that can be actually deployed or replicated to almost all the other energy sectors. The other thing is that how you sell the credit, how you get the money, the market, how the market plays about. Those are something that are not very clear. How do I, if I was a renewable energy investor, if I wanted to invest in Kenya, is there a particular maybe a write-up that I can follow and finally get my project accepted maybe by the gold standard or something? So this is something that the stakeholders can look into and then talk together with NEMA, so that I just go online and I get this very detailed step-by-step procedure on how to go about it. And that one would make a big impact on kind of allowing access to finance in the development of renewable energy technology. The other thing was that the scope of this study did not include market and stakeholder analysis. That's why you see we have not done any value chain. We have not gone and talked to companies in depth to actually get what is their biggest challenges. So that means already, in order for us to have a complete understanding of the market, we need to do a stakeholder mapping and capacity assessment of renewable energy technology. Look at who is there in the market, what are they doing, what are the challenges, what is their capacity. And that's when you've done that and you join it with what we have done, you have a very comprehensive understanding of the Kenya renewable energy. And then the enabling environment. If we have to have a very clear, in-depth understanding of the enabling environment, not just for solar or for wind, but for every single renewable energy, including tidal wave. What can be done, what can be changed? Because it's a bit unfortunate, and it is what are called a short-lived anticlimax. When the financial bill for this year says we have exempted the taxation on renewable energy equipment like solar and wind, but that is short-lived because it's only for this year. Come next year, if they revert back, you see it kind of brings a shock to the market. In order for this market to grow in this particular area, the renewable energy technology to grow, we need a long-term commitment. And that can only be done when we have already understanding of the enabling environment and we know what the problem with the value chain actors. And together with this study we have, we can now be able to approach the government and tell them, yeah, look, this is what is the situation. If you want us to move this direction, let's do this and this and this. There's also a need to have better wind resource map, better small hydro resource map. The radius maps can be obtained, and then better biomass prediction maps. Now, there's a thing about the prediction that's also not being discussed, actually. Lake Turkana wind power has a challenge in terms of prediction. They face a serious challenge because if you can't predict properly for tomorrow, you will end up either telling Kenya Power, KPLC that we are going to give you this much of power, but come tomorrow, you are then either given them, you have too much power or you have too little power. So that aspect has to be done. So we have done some little work at JQuat. At IET, we are currently working on something like this, a wind resource map that has a predictive aspect to it. But this is something we'd like to work with all the sector players. The same also goes for the biomass, because you can use the same kind of system that we are using, which is a mesoscale model, numerical weather prediction model, that you can also be able to predict biomass growth. Like you can be able to know if there's so much rain, then there'll be so much grass and there'll be so much vegetation cover you get once you have validated that. And this one can help a lot, and you can be able to tell the people, let's say northeastern or in a particular place in northeastern, that come the next 2 months there will be drought. So right now, and this particular area, area B, there will be a lot of grass. So right now, start moving your cows from this point A to point B, or alternatively, we start getting the grass and the vegetation in area B and bringing it to where these cows are. So these are some of the predictive aspects that renewable energy can actually help a lot in the day-to-day. And that also goes for water. Like you notice, one of the areas we are having a challenge is that almost 2/3 of Kenya has saline water. Saline water. People are drinking more or less hard water. And one thing that can happen is the use of desalination equipment, either powered by small wind, like a vertical axis wind turbine, or powered by solar. But we can use desalination to provide clean water, potable water. And this is something that has not been really emphasized. We don't need to buy a big multi-megawatt desalination equipment. Something small can work. And that is something that we're thinking about. In terms of solid waste to energy for generation of electricity and methane offtake in major dump sites, that is something that can also be explored in tandem with also the biogas containerization and biogas microgrid systems. That is something that could work also. So what are we saying in terms of recommendations for cooking? Now, the idea right now is people are moving from simple tier 1 improved cook stoves. They are moving to higher tier cooking technologies. Right now, GIZ is doing a study in Ethiopia where they want to emphasize that people move to electrical cooking. Maybe it might sound a bit far-fetched, but electrical cooking. So I think I'll just move to more slides. So with electrical cooking, we find provided there's sufficient affordable electricity, that will be the best. However, there are also things like biogas, LPG, and ethanol, which can work quite well. So this is something that we were thinking that could be considered in the movement. Lastly, in terms of market player and enabling environment, these are something that we are saying that we should have a cyclic market and enabling environment assessment and mapping plan, where you look at different aspects of the market and you kind of develop it. And that's why we're saying, so right now we have looked at technology, there's a need to look at enabling environment, to look at the stakeholders, and also to look at the economic and financials, which is now like the KRA and the treasury and the climate change thing. Right. So here is a kind of our work plan, we can call it strategy for IET, what we are planning to do next in terms of working with hydrogen, which might be very interesting, getting hydrogen and trying to use it for different purposes. Just a plan anyway. So in conclusion, what we are saying is that we have classified the renewable energy and contextualized it within the national energy mix. We have identified the readiness level, and then we have projected and given an futuristic focus of rest of the growth model for renewable energy technologies. What we say is that there's a huge potential for its growth in Kenya, and the technological and technological gaps hinder this vision, and then also the enabling environment, and may have also inadvertently also erected barriers towards its achievement. And that's about all. Thank you so much. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you, Dr. Xavier, for that elaborate presentation on behalf of the IET team. Now we are going to go into the question and answer session and comments, if any. I think one just needs to raise their hand, and then we allow them to unmute so that we don't have confusion. You can make comments, you can ask questions. We actually have a few on the public chat. And we will ask maybe Dr. Xavier, Engineer Kamwero, or even the CEO that they respond to the questions. I've also seen some that are directed to the officers that are tuned in. So maybe we can start with the ones on the public chat. By the way, after the question and answer session and the comments, we will then ask Dr. Gitonga, who is the Manager, Strategy and Business Development at REREC, to close for us, but I'll inform him when that time comes. So maybe we can look at a few, and maybe whoever can answer may be able to do it. We have a question by Kefa Abongo, and I'll join that with one by Aaron Rono and also Josephine Muchogu. And they are asking, one is asking, is it possible to share the report with the attendees at the end of the presentation? Aaron is asking, can we get the raw data which has not been synthesized or condensed? And I think Josephine is asking whether the data for the other renewables system is available per county. I think to answer Josephine, the answer is yes, that data is available. Can we share the slides? I think the slides may be shared, but the report and the raw data are still a property of REREC. So maybe REREC at its own time after receiving the report, they can decide when they can release the report. I don't know whether Engineer Kamwero, you have a different view. Maybe Engineer
I believe we will decide later. That one will be decided later after we get the report, the final report.
Yes, thank you so much. Engineer Mungai Kihara of Ministry of Energy is asking, in terms of solar PV, did the study consider the installations done by REREC and Ministry of Energy in public institutions in the arid and semi-arid regions? So Xavier, you might want to take on that, but maybe you can just take the two of them. Dr. Njoka of KU is also advising that it would help to flip solar PV and thermal technologies in terms of capacities other than numbers in the various counties. And Simon Wandera also wants to know how the biogas purification, I don't know whether it can improve the methane, and also about packaging and cellular issues. So Xavier, maybe you can address those two.
Okay, I'll start with the third one. Basically what happens is biogas is composed of mainly CH4, carbon dioxide, and also H2S, and also some water or something. But the most dangerous is that once you can use water bath to remove the carbon dioxide, the oxides of carbon. But then the biggest challenge is always the hydrogen sulfide. So what people use is desulfurizers, which means you have to spend money to buy it. And if you're looking at people in the village who don't have a lot of money and can't be doing that every time, every 1 year, every 6 months to 1 year, then you have to look for an alternative for cleaning it. And that's why we are talking about, trying to use steel wire and also loam red soil, because these ones have iron in them. Then they can kind of create a chemical reaction where they can extract the hydrogen sulfide. So that's on the cleaning part. In terms of containerization, the issue is to kind of have a container which you can have compress biogas into them to such an extent that that container will be full of the same energy density as that of an LPG, meaning it can last longer in a household, a week, 2 weeks, 3 months, something like that, depending on how they use it. Then in terms of this other question, Prof, if you can remind me the other question, what was it?
I think the other one was more of a comment by Dr. Njoka of KU.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. We can translate, because we have translated the data. Actually, the data is both in megawatts and also in numbers. So it has been translated, because if you look at the energy mix that we showed, the thermal one is in terms of megawatts. It's already there in megawatts. Yeah.
I think that is well taken, Dr. Joka. I think the other advice is that we should also include briquettes and pellets on the thermal component, because a lot is happening. I think that one is well taken. I think we are going to include that. There is a question that is actually directed to Engineer Kihara from Getao, and he's asking how can the studies by the Ministry of Energy be accessed? How can those studies be accessed? I think it is in terms of, I think, Dr. Xavier, there is a disparity from the theoretical potential that you gave for small hydros, and Engineer Kihara is saying there is another study that has given the theoretical potential of 3,000 megawatts. Whereas,
maybe to answer Muigai Kahara from the ministry, there was a study done by Q Energy, that is Mr. Theuri, and they mapped all the hydros in the country. They mapped all the hydros in the country. So when we gave our minimal of 300, it does not have all the hydros in the country. Yeah, these are physical ones we visited, but it does not map all the potential hydros rivers. So if it is okay with Engineer Kihara, and that is why we are having this meeting, we would be very happy to get hold of the information he has, so that we can update the report. As I said before, these are minimal installation levels, meaning it is much higher in practice, but at least it gives you a benchmark or somewhere to begin with. Then did the installation consider the installations done by REREC and the Ministry of Energy in public institutions in ASAL? Partly yes, partly no. Partly yes, because the ones that we were able to access, we included them. Partly no, because currently there's a project going on called COSAP, and before that there was also some other installation. But again, this is data that we would want to be very willing and very happy if Engineer Kihara could avail to us, and then we could update the report. Yeah.
I hope if is the engineer Kihara, can he kindly unmute and maybe say something?
Thank you very much.
Our time is running out shortly.
Just go ahead, engineer.
Thank you very much, Professor and Dr. Xavier. This is really a good study and focusing on renewable energy. And I really like the work we have done with REREC. And thank you very much, Dr. You'll be able to answer my question correctly. That's good. On the access of the studies, I had answered, another person had asked that question, but they are available. It's only that they are not available publicly, but maybe we can have a meeting or such and agree how we can share such information. We may have maybe a lot of information that can come in and maybe put more resource to this study. Thank you.
Thank you so much, engineer. I think that is well taken. There is also a question from Nazarene Kiremi, who comments that some of the small hydros seem to be situated in areas with the seasonal rivers and streams. And the question is, are they operational? Maybe Xavier?
Yes, some of them are operational because you see, you're looking at, you're not looking at a big hydro. You are looking at what we call small hydros, run of the river systems, where the main river is still going on, but then you make a weir and a small quantity of the water goes sideways, goes into the powerhouse, and then comes back and joins the river. So with that one, it means you don't have a lot of, you don't need a lot of the water in the river. So even a small amount will be able to run it. So some of these areas are like that. Of course, there are others that with the passage of time, rivers have kind of reduced. They have become from permanent to become seasonal. That has also affected them. But when they are seasonal, some of them are still working. Some might not be working. But the data we have is for the installed capacity. And if you look at the report, you'll be able to see the status, where it is written whether the thing is working or not. Yeah.
Thank you, Xavier. I think there is another comment by Boniface Gocho. I think he's just commenting on the recommendation that you are making to REREC to maybe discuss with the government on issues to do with the tax. He's saying that tax is higher than the sum, and actually that VAT is added on top of the duty. I think he's, if I get him well, I think he's just supporting your sentiment that some of the renewables, like biofuels, maybe should not attract some of these taxes. We have a comment from Raban Bimo. I think he's from some university in China, Chichou University or something. He's saying that small-scale farmers can use biogas for electricity generation. And he's saying that here there exists a gap that need to be addressed. I think you have that in the report, Dr. Xavier. I think that comment is well taken. Nicholas Maundu is saying that for energy technology adoption, especially off-grid applications, consumer awareness, attitude, perspectives are key aspects. Study may need to include this to achieve the objective. I don't know whether you have a comment on that, but it appears like a good comment. I know we are likely to be shut off at 12. We are shut off. Are we still on?
No, Prof, we are still on, but you could be.
We are still on. So I think because I know we will be shut off very shortly, let me invite Dr. Gitonga to close the session for us. We might be shut off automatically. Dr. Gitonga, kindly. Dr. Gitonga, thank you, members. Thank you, stakeholders.
Thank you very much, Professor, and also Dr. Xavier. I think let me start by saying that representative of Minister of Energy, the county government representative, REDEC, EPRA staff, KNBS, KPLC, CAREA, representative of universities, representative of industries, private sector, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As we mark the end of the workshop, I wish to commend you all for having made time out of your busy schedules to attend this important meeting. Allow me to take this single opportunity to thank you all for participating in this validation workshop on the baseline study on renewable energy technology in Kenya. Allow me also to greatly thank REDEC for taking the initiative in leading for the first time in taking stock of renewable energy technology in the country. Also, let me take this opportunity to greatly thank the EJUCAT and the Institute of Energy and Environment Technology for such a groundbreaking benchmarking research. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to sincerely thank the stakeholders present at the workshop and stakeholders who gave input towards this important research. It is no secret that the success of this workshop is active participation. We are very grateful to you for taking time off from your busy schedules to participate in this validation workshop. Ladies and gentlemen, it is expected that the evidence generated will guide our policies and regulation in the renewable energy space and guide in the policies for affordable and quality power in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, further, it is expected that the evidence shall guide investors, researchers, and the general public in promoting renewable energy as required in law. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, with these few remarks, it is an honor and pleasant duty for me to declare the workshop on validation workshop for baseline study on renewable energy in Kenya officially closed as we continuously engage in developing a green energy-driven nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thank you so much, CEO REDEC. Thank you so much, our stakeholders from the industry, from the ministry, and from all the universities and some of our students. We shall take all your comments into the report and we should continue collaborating. Thank you so much and God bless you.
Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, everyone.